I've always felt different. I've always seen things, but when I tried to express them as a child, I was always told to ignore it.
There were people that I didn't know that came to me and said, I have this message that I keep getting that I have to deliver to you.
All of a sudden, out of the shadows, a homeless man just jumped right in front of me. And he said, I'm a soul just like you.
I love it.
I wanted to understand the universe and who and what we are and what are we doing here.
We're all part of this amazing soul wave tapping into each other.
This was a major life changer.
You are a light. You have helped me a ton. Thank you.
You've given me the courage to live more from my soul.
Millions of people are awakening. So wake up with Michele Yafi, the place to hear the best-selling authors and experts in the fields of cutting-edge self-help, personal growth, metaphysics, and spirituality. The soul path of awakening. Understand what living awake is.
I see people in the chat. Hello, hello, hello. It's great to connect with you all. All right, great gathering happening. I want to hear from you. Call in and share. Got messages from the guides as well, the oversouls for you today. If you're new, welcome. I'm Michele Yafi, and some of you may or may not know that. This is Awakenings with Michele Yafi, because there are more than one awakening. There are many awakenings in different sectors, different areas of life, and different ways of awakening. There's a soul awakening, a spiritual awakening, governmental awakening, a country awakening, a world awakening, an earth awakening, a galactic awakening, an educational awakening, a financial awakening. There's a lot of awakenings. Everything in this universe is in this great awakening. So I welcome you all with so much love and light. I really do. I appreciate all of you connecting here and sharing your beautiful, yes, Sunray, one self. The metaphysical maxim. Out of the one comes the many, and from the many is the one. From the many is the one, and out of the many is the one. From the one is the many, and out of the many is the one. And when we get that and understand that and live that, skyrockets in flight. Galactic rockets in flight. So welcome everyone. If you are new, I want to welcome you with an open heart. You can call in, just get the link, press the link, call in. I know I've received some emails by some people that didn't know how to call in. It's not really a call, it's a link, it's a click in, whatever. Click, dial, number punching, whatever. Gets you the same thing. I also want to remind people ways to connect with me further. Patreon. I am loving my Soul Awakening Soul Path community. I love all of us connecting. I love what's coming through. I love the personal, interpersonal changes that everyone is making, and really stepping into their power and empowerment and really living more soul purpose, soul aligned. And many are finding their soul's mission. And I just love that I get to be a part of that, however big or small. Doesn't matter. It just excites me, and it reminds me over and over why I'm here. Because some of us came in with a specific mission, and you're here till it's done. And the circumstances in your life will stay such so that you can do your mission. Just remember that. If you come in with a certain mission and you know it, you can feel it in your energy, in your bones, in your being, and you look at your life and you go, wow, I see how everything was guided to this. Then the circumstances that best support you, that's what your higher self, your soul, your guides, God, consciousness, spirit realm, Ashtar command, whoever you're floating with and supporting, and they're supporting you, will happen in that way. So want to let everyone know, join me, Soul Awakenings. Now again, on Patreon, there's a free tier. There's different tiers that you can get different soul support and guidance and input. The most fun I'm having with is the monthly. So anyway, I'm doing some mentoring. And also connect on YouTube, Awakenings with Michele Yafi podcast on YouTube. Love it if you would subscribe. Also Soul Insights and Tarot. And then also come and say hi, hang out, and give a subscribe, joy, follow, whatever, join on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm kind of I'm coming out, I'm not very, in my meditation this morning, I'm not very, I guess the word is ambitious to get out there, but I am more wanting to share, kind of coming out of my little hermit cave of information, and because it is a time to gather. So Amand wants to talk. I see somebody. I'm in the office. Call in, Amand, if you'd like to. Amand, join the room. Oh, Maria cannot call in, but do you have a question? We'll look at that. Oh, good, Maria. Now, some of you that called in before were here before in the chat and hanging out. Maria had called in, and the guides, the information came in so strongly about her changing her bed around and changing some stuff in her room. And she's like, oh my God, I've been thinking about doing that. So it was a confirmation. And her guides were very loud, by the way, before I got on the live stream, before I, logged in. So she says, update in the chat. I can't talk. I'm in the office today. Okay, got it. I love when people listen in the office. I love it, love it, love it. Just want to let you know I finally moved my room around. Feels like I lifted something heavy. Oh, very cool. Well, I'm sure you did. So, everything, energy, vibration, and frequency. And so we don't always know why. Usually when something is off, it can be a frequency thing. It can be adjustment. Food is frequency, right? Vibration, frequency. It has a particular quality of energy. Everything's energy. So we're talking about qualities of energy. And sometimes certain things are a better quality of energy for us, a better vibe, a better fit for us. Just like clothing, food, shoes, music, environment, some things resonate more on a soul level or resonate with what is more aligned to us or what we need more in a particular situation. So please mute yourself before you go on. I hear stuff in the background. I reached out to everybody. But... Okay, we hear stuff in the background. So yeah, look at the frequency of things, or if you just have a feeling, this is too much for me, or not enough, or this is off somehow. Remember we had Shira Hunt, and I always talk about her because she healed herself she was near paralyzed and was on the way to crossing over. Nurse, musician, energy and sound healer. She healed herself vibrationally, and she always, she's been on the podcast a few times, so you can find her in the archives, whether on, Apple, Spotify, all the, she's also on YouTube, all the podcast platforms, the archives, and also on Podbean. But she does a lot with the voice or toning, finding out what the missing note is. So she has a way of mapping your frequency through your voice to see what notes are missing and what it corresponds to energetically, vibrationally, and also color. She brings in color, tone, sound, foods, and other things that would go along with that. But as she says, everything is vibration. So our bones are a certain, frequency and vibration. So we have a certain frequency to our bones, to our muscles, to different parts of our body. And so all of that it's a complex of vibrational frequency. And so all of that has to be, kind of aligned, like a symphony, aligned, and also in our house, in our home. And I love one time we were having this conversation on the podcast, and she was saying, because I was saying I had to get rid of this rug. I like this rug, but it was just too much. It was a great throw rug. And certain things I think I was living in another house. That's right. I got all hardwood floors. And then I had a couple rugs, and one was just too heavy, the density. And she said, well, everything's frequency. So you didn't need that frequency anymore. That frequency wasn't suiting you. And I realized I was always very attuned to that organically or naturally. And I think it's something to look at, because if you are feeling a certain kind of vibe about a food or situation, there's a misalignment, there's a mismatch, there's something incongruent. And just like sometimes when you feel nauseous around someone, it's something is off. And just like with food, that's our instinctual awareness, our body awareness coming through that intuition. That's not even psychic. That's like base level sixth sense stuff, right? Animal beings do it. They'll shy away from certain foods or certain things or certain people. And we're meant to do that too. And that's part of this awakening, is we're actually going back to that, integrating that, where that's going to be more of our main um, focus. Okay, Sunray in the chat is saying, I just went back to plant-based diet this month. Yeah, you really have to just listen to your intuition and not the conditioning of what seems to be, I mean, obviously within reason, what seems to be healthy. You don't want to be eating sugar every day, or too much coffee or alcohol or certain things, or even cacao, even things that are good for you or healthy for you, and not in the right alignment and balance for you, is not great. I'm very aligned to that. I'm very attuned to what my body needs, and so I really tend to work more on a subtle energy frequency. Like if I feel a little something in my throat, right away I start taking my Zan, Ensure Herbal, my olive leaf, certain things. I'll eat certain foods. Not that I don't want to get sick, because every now and then it's good to get sick, because it's like a natural organic purging and cleansing. Like there's natural fires in the forest. But when you stay attuned, you can figure out, oh, I need more. I need to be out more. I need to be in more. Oh, water I need. Oh, let me go by the ocean. Oh, the redwoods or pine tree, whatever it is, or where you're at. I need to walk more. I need to sleep more. I need to stretch more. Oh, I need to do yin yoga more. Oh, no, Ashtanga yoga. I need more move. We're meant to live like that, in partnership with the subtle energy of us that also is the universe or universal aspect of us, or multidimensional galactic aspect, other dimensional and planetary. We're meant to be in kind of a divine dance or consort with that part of us. And that is part of this great awakening, is living more and more from that space, that becomes the default position, that you're living more from that place and not as much from the thinking. So when we were moving in the concept, the old paradigm and concept, because it really is a mental construct and concept of separation, which we were never separated. We were separated out as soul, individuated, not separate. That was kind of that's a whole other podcast I'll be diving into. And I have already in earlier lives and live streams and podcasts, the somewhat misuse of power on that level, and lack of wanting to know. But anyway, I don't want to digress. So with the conditioning or condition response pattern, this is why a big part of the awakening, and what I started 20, 25, 30 years ago working with awakening, and started this podcast in 2008, was to work in the emotional body, corresponds to the astral. Because as we cleanse and clear the astral, the purifying, to get more to the soul alignment, what gains momentum, energetic momentum and frequency, and gains hold, it is what of more of the soul level. But in the old paradigm, the old game is very much based, and you can look through all the way through written and verbal history and dynasties and aristocracy. It was very much conditioning, very much based on wounding and power over, underpowered, that victim abuser, the adversarial dynamic, win or lose, is very binary, very extremes of the polarity. And of course, it's easier to control people when you are scared that you're not connected to source, whether you call that God, the all that is, and you always have to go to intermediaries. People get a bit scared, like, oh, well, I'm just in case, I better not do this. And so there became these formulas. Oh, this is the way to success. This is the way to this. This is the way to that. Don't do that. Good girls don't do this. Good boys don't do this. Don't laugh this way. It's very contrived. And so it created a lot of powerful shadow material, but not just negative. I mean, a lot of people talk about the non-life enhancing or the more challenging aspects of the shadow. But the shadows can also be where your gifts are. It's just what's been disowned, what you haven't integrated into this part of your psyche meaning soul, your avatar, ego complex, right? With all these aspects of you, like the main character part of you, main player, right? So now that dynamic, because that was the dissension, to feel separated out, but now in the ascension, it brings in the unification or unity consciousness, not to lose our individuated aspect of being the soul, to create more from that, but to come together more as a collective and understand that we're not effect. So we're moving out of that time. By the way, I had this great conversation with one of my clients, and this can be coming up for a lot of people. Let me know if this is coming up for you. So we've either taught, again, so much in the extremes of the polarity, we get stuck in the duality because we create through duality, the electrical, magnetic, the masculine, feminine, right? The in, the out, the yin, the yang. But beyond that, there's the third wave or third wave. And that's why I've been talking about this third wave, that it's not generation, it's not age, it's not race. It's a vibrational frequency or complex of frequencies that holds the codes of the new emerging consciousness, those vibrational codes, those key codes, soul codes, the language, right? Wouldn't call information, the information. And so getting it, every problem that we've ever had, or anybody that's ever had, it never came from example A or example B or choice A or B. Something new came in, a new idea, insight, an aha, and an innovation, an invention. But we've been thought to kind of ping pong in the binary. So, and that's, that's okay. That's an interesting game. But the game is opening up. It's getting bigger. It's getting more expansive. It's getting more fun, more surreal, more interactive. So we move out of this idea that I'm effect of things. And we move more into intentionality and connecting into understanding constructs, mental constructs, and what's behind them vibrationally or energetically, to move out of an overemphasis of time into timing, synchronistic timing, which means you move out of the polarity of cause and effect. You move into the idea of what is best on a resonance or energetic level or a complex of energetic frequencies, what's most life enhancing. Because all of nature does not work in that binary system, does not work in that narrative of the extremes of the polarity. Whatever happens, it's like a circle or a spiral. When we look at the soul, this mortal coil, it's this amazing design, this matrix, this fractal, the flower of life. There's so many ways to look at it. But it's the binary, the more that we get into the polarity or the extremes of the polarity and can't connect into that middle way and find that next level or allow that next level to come through, which is whatever wants to be birthed. You even think of birth of beings coming through, right? The sperm, the ovum, and what happens, a third thing, that something is created. So we're moving more into the idea of being these creators, connecting in seamlessly as channels of light, of information, understanding we have this holographic aspect of ourselves, this interactive avatar or human ego aspect, complex, whatever you want to call it, so many names. But that we're here to have these shared experiences. And this even shows in the astrology, as especially next year when Neptune goes back into, and there's a conjunction of the Neptune and Saturn in Aries, it's a new vision. It's the visionary. It's the new game that's being birthed. And we're already in the pivot of that. We're already in the turning point. Some of you have heard me say, I look at it as a big ocean liner, a big yacht. You don't always know that the yacht is turning, or the big ocean liner. But all of a sudden you look up and you go, oh my God, we're in a different direction, or we were going over towards that island. Now we're going towards this island. But some people are very adept at picking up the shift, the transition. They're feeling it energetically and they're connecting with it and wanting to gather. Anyone would like to call in before we have our guests coming on? I see Sunray. Sunray's the only one that knows how to unmute. Hey, Laura, good to see you. Sunray is live. Are you live, Sunray? I think you're still muted.
Yeah, I am. I'm here.
Hello.
Hello, Michele.
Hello.
Pleasure to connect with you.
You as well.
everything you're saying about the timing, the information, and the extremes of the polarities, and stepping into that new way, the third way. Oh man, it is like it feels like night and day now.
Really? Okay,
After,
great.
yeah,
Tell us. I love this. This is why I want people to call in, because I feel like as we all share these experiences, we're going to find we're having shared experiences.
yeah. I feel like it's interesting because I'm starting to see it like within my own life, like realizations and understanding, like for example, what sobriety means for me, and seeing like Miley Cyrus just recently was interviewed about her sobriety, and I really resonated with that, and it felt like there's a lot of people really understanding kind of like their call or purpose, as you mentioned, and
Yes.
but because of this, I'm also seeing energy a lot differently now, a lot more recently than before, and it's putting me in a position where, or not putting me, it's providing the opportunity for me to step through and observe more than to
That's a good
initially,
point.
yeah, like just kind of jump in, because now I can see like, okay, where this kind of person is at, energetically speaking. Um, and but right now I feel like, so like I am needing your guidance on this, on real quick, on the relationships that are like, there is friction right now with a lot of my relationships, and including that of myself. um I don't know if you see anything. I don't even know if there's a question there. I think I'm like, I, I think it's a reflection of obviously what's going on internally. It has to be. I consulted the alchemy cards from Kim Kranz, and I was given winter, sugar, celebration, and another card. I forget what the other card was. Oh, the drowned king. So ego, dissolution, wintertime, celebration, so good things, and then sugar, finding the sweetness of life.
Yeah, as I tune into your energy, I'd say all that applies, but I also am going to say you also. That's why I love when you do call in or whatever, link in or click in, whatever we're going to have to call it. I'm so used to when we were on Blog Talk, when we could phone. I've been getting so many emails. Where's the phone number? Where's the phone? Like, you got to do the link. It's the link now.
Yeah.
But remember, I talked about oppositional forces, which a lot of people in the
Mm.
spiritual community, and I said, let's bump it up, higher. Out of this certain mental construct. But we look at this idea of spiritual warfare, psychic attacks, psychic warfare, um, this fight. Again, that's the adversarial. But we do have that energy within us, which means it's also could looked at as counter intention, intention, counter intention, a double bind. And I looked, and yes, it is something within us, this oppositional force, but that is how the universe creates until one energy kind of takes over due to
Mm.
it being more life enhancing, a stronger force. So I'm saying, okay, I was talking about this last week, and I've done a couple of, I think, reels and posts on it. I've definitely talked about it on Patreon a few times, that
Mm.
community, because it's so important right now, and it is going to get more heightened, especially as we have Uranus going into, well, it's in Gemini, and I think it's going direct. So the idea is like when I want to do something, so we're going to bring it down. Like, okay, if I want to, what happens? Oh, I'm going to eat better. And I'm like, okay, I've been eating well. And then I go out with friends, and all of a sudden I eat a cake, and I'm like, oh God, I didn't want to eat cake. Why did I do that? There was an urge. So until we shift, there's kind of our former self, our operating system that's still kind of active. So it attracts, we're still attracting from that level, even certain relationships or ways of relating that we have around us, whether we're talking individually or in the external world or the mundane world, the mainstream consciousness. And now what's happening there's a lot of oppositional energy right now there, and you can see people bumping up. They want it to be left, they want it to be right, they want to be Democrat or Republican. They want it's a Trump, it's a bad, and this one's a good and this one's a bad, and they're playing that out. That's their dynamic. But there is a level that's more expanded that takes that in and connects to that energy and uses it in that third wave, that understanding, wow, this is a creative energy, right?
Yeah,
I have,
so I can see these interpersonal relationships that are feeling rocky as an indication of something to shift within myself, because kind of like the drowned king, the king must, take blows to itself in order to rise to its full potential.
yeah. And it's that saying, the king is dead, the king is alive, the queen is dead, the queen is alive, long live the king. So some of it is connecting to our spiritual nature and that king archetype, right? Our royalty, which is our soul, our sovereignty, which is our inner connection to ourself and our ability to get our, obviously we want to talk, we want to listen to people, you want to work with coaches and guides and groups. Yes, all of that. And understanding you're doing that through your own funnel or filtering for your soul and your inner truth. And so that moves us. That's the true sovereignty. People think, oh, it's sovereignty, I can walk around with my gun. Okay, that's a level. The true level is, am I connected? Am I in that infinite funnel of of the all that is, and more living from that place? So yes, it is going to cause conflict within energetically. Some of it you might be able to name and say it's a this or a that, or I need to work on this and that. And some of it is just pure energetics, because something new, that new aspect of soul is coming in, that from that new emerging consciousness for the new paradigm. And it's bumping up against our conditioning. It's bumping up against how we did things or how it worked. And by the way, the thing is, when we are living more from the higher self or the soul, we're spiritually, it is, I always say, it's like a bit like being in the middle of the pool in the deep end or the ocean, because consciousness is emerging. It's like a waterfall or the faucet on. So we always have to kind of connect in and tune in and see what, how to respond. So that's bumping against the part of us that created a narrative or a mental emotional construct around beliefs and ideas of how we deal with things, what we do. This is why it's going to be so much more critically important that people understand how to connect in through the vibrational frequency of their higher self and access higher consciousness, more expanded consciousness information, and especially in through the subtle energy, as the physicist Dr. Maynard that came on years ago said. He was on a few times. He's the only physicist that's been on that talked about subtle energy and how important. And I've got to get him back on. I loved our conversation. And I read also Dr. Goswami, another physicist. I read their books. Because when we connect into the aspects of us that's not the denser physical reality, we feel safer. We can begin to feel the interconnectedness to the all that is. And so we feel more part of nature and part of that part of us that's guiding us. So Sunray, yeah, you're in a major, I feel a big transition. So it might feel like, wow, I have faith or fear. What's going on here? Do I trust, believe? Am I being guided? There's a questioning. There's the questioning part of you. And then there's the part that's coming through saying, yes, I'm guided. My higher self knows what to do. I'm on path. So you've got these aspects that are kind of bumping up against each other. And what will happen, just like all what happens, I know you guys, just some of you laugh at me because my little analogies, fashion and music, consumer goods, where people place their money, it atrophies. So then these old ways of being, we don't have to fight them. We need to out-create them. We need to create other systems and ways of connecting and being and conversations. Then the other loses the electromagnetic. It begins to wane in frequency. So that has to happen with us. So we're learning, from the esoteric of the occult, it's that harmony through conflict.
I see. So, would you say, moving forward, doing, not focusing on what was done and more focusing on what can be done differently moving forward, because these are things that, like, these are actions that I've done or taken that I did not approach it with the intentionality that it would hurt someone else or harm someone else or make someone else feel conflicted, but that now they're sharing with me that I've done X, Y, and Z. And now I'm like, oh crap. So it's just, it sucks. It feels terrible. And so are you saying that, like, now it's more about focusing on moving forward differently?
I'm saying you come into your process because there's the esotericist, spiritualist, psychic channel, medium, trance and conscious channel, Michelle. And there's the therapist, Michelle, the transpersonal psychologist, Michelle, that says we also have the energy and motion, the emotional aspect, of us and the mental. So you may have to process some stuff around what you did or didn't do. In fact, all of us are in that place right now because we're clearing house. And so sometimes we have to revisit, oh God, why did I do that? Why did I this and that and da 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 da. And I'll explain something to you guys. I invested in some stock a while ago and I listened to the wrong person. My guides told me to invest. It soared. I got rid of it because somebody told me that knows more, that's actually in the field of the stock market and all that. And now I'm kicking myself. Like, why did I sell?
I see. Okay, because it's not about what's good or bad or what you did or didn't do, but it's more kind of like with the polarity thing. It's more about looking at it objectively and being like, okay, well, this is what I did, and this
whatever. You have to make peace. You have to, like, to use a Yiddish word, you got to kvetch a bit. You got to get on your side. We just do that as humans. You got to know when to let go of it. But this is the time now. It's the atonement, moving into one-ment. And after you process, it's like the process of grief, whether anger, I don't want this to happen, bargaining, why did I do this? If this never happens, anger. This is, to me, and this was one of the messages I got from the guides, and it'd be interesting when our guest comes on, what she has to say about this. Many of us at our new level of healing, because you're always healing. Healing comes from the Latin word, or Old Halen, for wholeness. So it has integrity, means integris, coming from the whole. It's just going to be maintenance. Like, oh, I have this pattern. Oh, this came up. Da 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 da. We're going to see the awakening and living more enlightened is that it isn't reflective of your whole consciousness. It's part of, because we're not in full consciousness here. That's part of the game. There's only so much you can do, and not just individually, but based on the medium range of the complex vibrational frequency of the mainstream. That's why when I was talking about awakening and awakenings and the soul, people didn't want to hear it years and years ago. What? Spirit, soul? No. Now you can't not hear it. So we can only do so much in a broader level as more people shift vibrationally. And we see that, but things get extinct. So knowing that, it's like your healing goes on, but the difference is now it's healing from a place that there's nothing wrong with you or to fix. It's just a maintenance. It's a tune-up. It's brushing your teeth. It's taking a shower. It's washing your clothes, and you get on with things. So it's a high level of compassion, self-understanding, self-acceptance, and love. Okay, I messed up. I should have said this. I did that. Woo, that pattern got there. I did the whole thing. I overdid. I overgave. Or I didn't listen to my higher self, and I lost 20 grand. Okay. Well. And one of my client's friends, who's a major multimillionaire billionaire, I said, God, I did this twice, where the guides gave me, and I listened to an expert. And he's like, but Michele, aren't your guides the ultimate? I go, I know. Why did I do that? They gave me this deal, this money, and I listened to a human expert that has a lot of fear, even though they're a great expert. So I'm still wrestling with that a little bit. So it's going to be different things for different people. But at the end of the day, you go, okay, that's when my little pattern flared up, and it'll be different. And because what happens when we do that, we reclaim that energy. It's a transmutational process for transformation. I take that energy units that are held back in that situation, and I bring them forward. In that situation, the electromagnetic charge of it atrophies. So I have less and less emotional charge. but the energy requalifies. So now I can use it for inspiration, passion, and purpose. And it made a nice little story for today. Do you see what I'm saying? So you work with all aspects of you holistically, all parts, because that's also Sunray, what's going to be moving you, what you called forward or upward or outward, or expanding more into that soul frequency, soul signature frequency. But right now I'm going to be, what you're bringing up is such a good point. And for everyone listening, we are in this time, because also it shows in astrology with that Neptune and Saturn going back in, Neptune and Saturn going back into Pisces. It's the last little bit of cleaning and clearing. I promise you this. Those of you that are connecting here, on this live, on this podcast, or that I know, and obviously there's other people in a similar area, energy, that's why we're all coming together. We'll have that realization that heavy lifting of, being entrenched in, generational transmission stuff, cultura, programming, conditioning, you're freeing up for that. So if there's a last little bit of this and that, that's okay. By this time next year, you're not going to be dealing with that. I promise you.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That sounds very healing and kind of like reassuring that this is just kind of like the gunk when you're like clarifying the butter, or like when you're making chicken soup, you got to like clean up the scum from up top before you like start diving into a holistic meal that is healing and loving.
Yeah. And I'll give you, for me, what I've noticed, whether with myself or my clients, and especially with myself, it's the key, the shifter seems to be, and of course, because love is the binding force of the universe, everything is a cry for love or expression of love, is our self-love. As we come to the loving, the term, the human aspect of us, or the earth, or the holographic aspect of us, the avatar us. Yes, if we move into that self-love and self-acceptance, and sometimes that's a little humor. Like I had this wedding with the guy that said, Michelle, how long are you gonna? And I laughed and I said, I don't know. Here I did it again. I was like, okay, I'm trying to be a good girl and go to the experts and not just psychic and spiritual. Oh, let me go to the the financial planner. Let me try to do a 3D thing. And it's like, no, Michelle, you really are not the 3D person. It backfires every time. So, okay, I'm okay here. I got it again. So yeah, that's that love, the love, Sunray, which you have so much of, so much heart energy. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for your guidance and light. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in or clicking in or whatever the heck we're doing.
Tuning in. What did you say?
Tuning in. Ooh, I love that. Tuning in. Yes.
Have a wonderful show. I'll be listening in the background.
Okay. Very cool. Hey, everyone. Good to see you. Do you have any questions? Oh, Sunray, thank you for the likes. Yeah, definitely like, subscribe, do all that. I always forget to say all that stuff. Like, subscribe, share, pass it on. But I'm going to be doing more of this because, as some of you know, I almost gave up because I got really busy. And I thought, oh, God, I've been doing this podcast since 2008. It got in, top 40 international. It really broke ground because no one was doing anything like this when I first started it. And then 2 sessions I had, 2 psychic sessions I had with a couple of clients, and a couple of messages snuck in for me. I was like, ooh, oh. It was about getting out there again and who is supposed to do, like, in other words, the mission, the shift doesn't happen except by us, by people, individuals. That's what we're all doing here. Came back to do. And then I had 2, so we took a 5-month sabbatical to shift and to get on a different platform and kind of regroup because of BTR was, whatever you call it. What's it called? Sunsetted. I think that's like a digital, techie term. I think they say it's sunsetted. January 24. So my guides came through the hierarchy and oversouls, and they said, how's the information supposed to get out, Michele? How are you supposed to be connecting people? I mean, they were very boom, which they can be. And I was like, oh yeah. Okay, I get it. Twice. Okay, it's not just, and I love doing it anyway. I love connecting, and I'm very excited for this time of this great gathering. You know, I can see a difference of the guests that we've had on of late. That there's a group of us that are really wanting to connect beyond the 3D interpretation of the mundane, that are the what I call the bridgers and builders. What I'm working with is my mission here, and it has always been. No matter where, if there's somebody that I work with that's in the government, or a teacher, or billionaire, millionaire, a student, a light work, it doesn't matter. In different fields are bridgers and builders, and I keep saying to everyone, you got to understand where you're at. And so if you're a bridger and builder, you do have a strong, mission, a calling, whether you're working individually or it's with family and friends, or how you are being a guardian of children, raising children or family, or you're changing. I have a lot of clients that are doing things in education. I have clients that are doing things governmentally, or some are doing things with new, apps and products. Wherever you're finding yourself, maybe it's how you paint, or what you paint, or the music, or the intention you do, or maybe you're writing, maybe you're whatever it is, healing, whatever it is, you're infused with the codes of that new emerging consciousness. And so whatever you're putting out in the world, whatever form it is, whether it's a type of relationship, or how you're relating, or how you're living your life, or it's a more tangible form of something you're creating, you are part of the awakening and bridging and building. You're the creative solution. You're tapping in as a imaginal cell or creator being to create this new paradigm. So I'm really excited to connect with more of you and hear from you, hear what you're doing, what's working, what's not working, ask questions, tune in, share your ideas, your vision, because we're all creating this individual but also collective new vision that we're opening up to, or downloading. Thank you, Maria, for liking the show. It's always good to see you. Always good to see you. Okay, I'm getting the hang of this app. Wouldn't be able to if not for Sunrise. So it's time for our second half of the program. We have Dr. Yafi Yair. I hope I am saying her name right. Author of Conversations with Hathor, Channeling the Divine Feminine. Now, she's a clinical psychologist and multidimensional channel, and she's bridging science with unseen realms. So that's just a little bit. We're going to dive in more and find out more about her and what she's doing in this part of the Great Awakening. Yafi, hi, welcome.
Hi, Michele. Thank you for having me on your show.
So wonderful to connect with you. Now, tell me, Yafi, and how do you say the last name?
Yair.
Yair. Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Very few people get it first. They get it right the first time.
Yeah. Yafi. I love that name though. Yafi. I don't know. What does that mean? Does it have a meaning?
Yes. So I was born in Israel. So the name is Israeli, not as unique over there. And it's from the root of the word beauty. So I was named after my grandmother, Bella.
It's like Bella. Oh, similar meaning. Oh, beautiful.
And my last name means will bring light, which I love.
Oh my gosh. I love that. It's something in names. I looked up the derivation of my last name, Michele, which it's German, French. So I have a Hispanic background, and also, Western European, obviously Germany, France. And Miche or Miche or Michele in French means healing light hands.
Oh, it's incredible.
And I did healing work. And I'm like, okay, it must have been because my mom was a bit metaphysical, and but my dad not. And she wasn't until later on, and then, came to me after she crossed over. And then I found out all these books, but on metaphysics and Edgar Cayce and all this stuff. But I thought, isn't that amazing? It's so interesting how that can happen when you start looking back in your history. there are some clues. There's some little
Mm-hmm.
right hints or
Yeah,
breadcrumbs to what we're meant to, what we're ultimately going to be doing. You know.
absolutely, absolutely. Since we were very, very little, only we had no idea how
Yes.
complicated we're going to make life.
That's right. That's right. And then you look back and you go, "Oh my God, it was there all along." You know.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that. So let's talk a little bit. I want to know a little bit about your background and your first awakening and what you've been next big awakening, what you've been awakening to. Obviously, this book
Hmm.
is a big awakening and turning point. It seems like to me. Yeah, let's just jump in there, Yafi.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been kind of navigating between the right and left brain, scientific and creative slash intuitive parts of myself my whole life, really since I can remember. And then, when as an adult, of course, I did a doctorate in clinical psychology. As you can imagine, the most
Of
left
Yep,
brain,
yep.
critical thinking field that you can imagine, very scientific training, put away anything creative, anything spiritual, and really forgot it was a part of me for the majority of my
Mm.
life
So you had
until,
that part first,
yes, I
more
did. When I was very
spiritual.
little.
Okay, okay, but also intuitive, that aspect as well.
Absolutely. When I was
Okay,
little, yes.
okay.
So imagine this 3, 4, 5 years old, like really, really tiny. And I'm playing with energy coming out of my hand, trying to change the flow of water with the energy coming out of
Mm.
my hands. Or get the kids in the neighborhood to basically meditate with me. I didn't know it was meditation, to
Mhm.
try to levitate. These
Mm.
are the kind of ideas that I had since I was very, very little.
Well, we're in
But
the same, similar.
yes, oh
Yes,
great.
yes, yeah. So go on.
But
I mean, that's why I
yeah, but
feel
my
like
environment,
we're all starting to gather. I love this. I love this.
yeah,
Go ahead.
but my environment wasn't very supportive of it. So
Mm.
wasn't my family was not either. So that's why I kind of put it aside. And
Mhm.
as I said, pretty much ignored that part of myself. Although I always had, my mom always told me it was nonsense.
Mm.
But I always had that knowing that it wasn't nonsense. There was something beyond. Yes and no. I knew it. And at the same time, I became such a skeptic that I didn't really believe even in myself. Although I did
Mm.
have a sighting, a daylight UFO sighting when I was 8 years old. And I feel like, in a way, that was also a gift to prove to me, to validate that the world is magical and
Mm.
extraordinary things do exist. But despite all of that, I put everything aside and really harnessed it and developed my scientific tendencies and love. I
Mhm.
also have a love for science. So
Mhm.
that's what I did with my doctorate of clinical psychology. And the world, the universe, and my higher self had different plans for myself.
Yeah.
So in 2011, 12, something around that time, that's when my recent biggest spiritual awakening happened. And I became interested in anything spiritual, anything paranormal. I started reading the Seth Speaks by Jen
Oh, yeah, I
Roberts.
read that. But you know what I have to say? I have to interrupt. It's so perfect for this Aquarian age. Your blending of the
Hmm.
science and the spirituality
And I am
and
an
the emotion.
Aquarius.
Oh,
Yes.
you are. Oh my
I am,
God.
yes.
And the mental, emotional, the spiritual. That
Exactly.
all of that coming together. It's like you were guided.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Mm.
it's not like I regret doing my
Right.
doctorate.
Right.
It's just that it happened. Now it's a part of my background, a part of who I am, rather than my
Mm.
main path. You know,
Right.
my
Right.
main path is definitely spiritual, consciousness related, and this shift that we're going through right now, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so back to my recent awakening. Now we're talking 13, 14 years ago. It's amazing how time flies. So I became very, very interested in anything spiritual and paranormal. And I became more and more interested, but I was still not 100% convinced in the reality of it all.
Hmm.
And Then in 2012, my mom, my best friend, transitioned very, very quickly. It happened very, very quickly. And that made my spiritual searching
That's hard.
it was very hard, very personal and very urgent. It wasn't anymore something theoretical. It was something that I needed to experience, I needed to know. And I was successful in contacting her through lucid dreaming and all kind of interesting ways. And in my professional world, actually just before that, a couple of years before that, I think, no, a couple of years after that, I discovered hypnosis, which really gave me the opportunity to insert spiritual exploration into the clinical field.
Now there's
So that
another
was,
synchronicity. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I'm a
yes.
fellow from MBHA and a medical and also hypnotherapist. So
Oh, wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful. Yeah, and so first I was trained in clinical hypnosis, then I discovered Brian Weiss, then Michael Newton, then Dolores Cannon, and my mind just kept on exploding and expanding, exploding and expanding with all these new possibilities and what's out there.
I love
And
it. I think
and
that's something a lot
yeah.
of people should study because it's really that meditative state. It's connecting into that alpha theta, and it's like a gateway, an opening
Mm-hmm.
for so much, whether mental, emotional, physical, but other dimensional, past lives. It acts as a portal or an entry
Mm-hmm.
through a shift in consciousness and awareness. I love it. I absolutely.
Me too. It's a part of my
It,
passion for sure.
yes, right. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's such a
really.
fascinating world, and we're talking about really exploring human consciousness and human nature and human spirituality beyond what we can even imagine. What can be more interesting than that?
Absolutely. One of the things I want to ask you, Yafi, you talk about bridging science with unseen realms. Can you
Hmm.
talk a bit about that, like the science aspect and what you're terming unseen realms? Is it like that it's not as um, observable or predictable, or is there also an overlay of it?
So the science part would be more the psychology, which we
Mm.
touched on a little bit, the hypnosis, even. There's a science to hypnosis.
Oh, yeah.
And the spiritual, but in terms of unseen, now we're talking. So I mentioned that I've been working on developing my intuition and I've been meditating daily for 13 years now and going to the Monroe Institute regularly and developing my intuition and psychic abilities. And I've been doing that professionally for, I think, 9 years now. So, and about 5 years ago, I delved into the channeling world,
Mm.
and that's taking faith and trust and spirituality, for me anyway, to the next level. That deepened both my spiritual journey, my personal path, in terms of integrating the divine feminine, taking all those lessons that I've already was on the path of learning, but taking them to the next level in terms of being heart centered, being totally trusting in the goodness and connectedness of everything, of going with the flow rather than trying to control situations. So, all those lessons that were already a part of my path learning really took everything to the next level when I started channeling.
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
really delving into the unseen world. When you channel, you're connecting to beings and essences that, from our perspective, are completely non-physical, and it takes such a deep level of trust and of openness. And it takes a while before any channeler, before you're really, really convinced within yourself that it's not just you making it up, or at least having that doubt, not convinced of that, but letting go of that doubt. And it takes some time over time to get validation and what we call evidence or proof, because
Mm.
it's usually not one big thing. There are many things that happen, but it's kind of a layering effect. And over time, you learn to really, really trust. and really take that leap of faith. And it's not easy for many of us. We're trained in this world to prioritize what we can see and what we can feel and what we can touch. And we have this saying, seeing is believing, where the real reality is believing is seeing. Until you really take that leap of faith and really allow yourself to believe in the magical world and to believe that consciousness is fundamental and that you are creating the reality that you're in, until you really, really believe it, you're not going to see a lot of the signs, a lot of the guidance, a lot of the magic that is being laid out for us along the way. So I really learned on myself, on my own skin, how believing is seeing and not the other way around.
Yeah, that's so true. I like there's a saying in the study of hypnotherapy to suspend disbelief, because sometimes people can't believe. So it's like just suspend the disbelief. And
Yes, and that's it. Yes, and I think that's a vital step.
Yeah, I think so. And just be open, or just look. And I think a lot of times these signs or the messages that we're getting from the quantum, if you will, or expanded aspect of ourself, or God or the universe, combination, however you want to look at it, it's sometimes just suspending the disbelief, or just being open, or just looking. Because I feel like if you just take the time to look, you'll start seeing. A lot of people don't look. So the first step of just, well, let me look, let me try, let me see. And it seems like
Yes.
that, right, kind of strengthens that that muscle, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have this fear that if they suspend their disbelief, or if they take that leap of faith, all of a sudden they lose their judgment, they lose their discernment, they lose their groundedness, and there you go.
Yeah.
But it's not true. In fact, I think it's healthy to remain grounded, to remain discerning. You're not supposed to just be, a balloon that flows wherever the wind takes you. There's a reason you are you, but there is such strength and courage in really suspending that disbelief and allowing yourself to make that leap of faith of being truly open and truly allowing your curiosity other than fear lead the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just that being open. Now, sometimes, now you talk about the channeling. When I started that, it was very jarring, because I had I was always doing this type of work. I kind of, when I look back, starting at age 2 to 3 to 4, actually. But it happened so quickly. Everything else was kind of dissipating, leaving my life and my career. And these guides came through, multidimensional beings, and started sending me people. And I just started on the phone answering questions for people, giving them information that spread, and then in person. And then this woman, this astrologer in Newport, I read for, and she said, "Oh, how much do I owe you?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm going to be doing this." So it was kind of like, and years later, when it happened, the beings, the energies that were coming through, I'd never heard of them. And it turned out I had a book, that I couldn't read. People know my story here. I got to page 8 and I said, "Oh, this is BS. This is not." One of my metaphysical teachers had given it to me. And it wasn't until a couple years later, when I had this experience. I had been doing a reading and some healing work and for a client, and then these beings came, and I was like sitting in my office going, and I was modeling, I was acting, I was traveling around the world, but I was still doing the spiritual, but just kind of on the side, and we training and went back to school and studied. And I went, okay, I know what I'm seeing here. There are these light beings. I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking about
Yes.
grounded, right? Like, you're like, I'm
Yeah.
going, I am very grounded. I'm kind of a skeptic, but, and then they told me who they were, and I couldn't find it. Now, what's interesting, which I also find interesting of having you on the live, on the podcast, that I've since run in to other people that have had a similar experience to me. Some of them I'm working with in
Mhm.
my Patreon group. Some of them have been guests. And it sounds like what you're saying too, this kind of all of a sudden, and like you said, you just have to kind of trust, like, what the heck? I'm grounded. I'm also
Mhm.
analytical. I'm wondering, and I want you to talk about this because I heard a little snippet. I was kind of doing some background, snoops on you. Just need to connect
Mhm.
it. But I heard you say something that I feel two things that are really important. I want to get your take on, and I feel people need
Mhm.
to really hear this. One is how a lot of us of this level are starting to now find each other, because I've been doing this a long time. It has not been
Mhm.
happening like this at all, at all, at all.
Mhm. That's right.
No, not channelers real. And the other thing that I absolutely love, because I've been having this experience, people have to realize information updates. And so sometimes you come out with this channeled information, it's similar to what was channeled before,
Mhm.
but also somehow different. It's been updated.
Yeah.
No shade to people that came before. And one of the examples I give is like in the late 80s and early 90s, when I learned to do energy work, our teachers said, okay, you got to draw a circle around with the energy, white light. You got to go wash your
Mhm.
hands up to your elbows. You got to do this, you got to do that. And then years later, we go, oh, it's vibration, free consciousness. You just shift. So,
Yes.
what would you say to that? Because I heard someone saying, oh, you're like so and so. And I've had certain people tell me, one person I won't name, but they're saying like this third way. I channeled this information like in 2009, 2011, this whole third wave, and it's come up again. And this third wave that's created. And my guys, of course, are saying it's by frequency, vibrational frequency and resonance. It's not by generation. It's not by age. It's not by race, color, creed. And so I feel like a lot of times, like anybody, when you're studying or learning, or I'm sure from you as a science, with a science background, we move. Maybe we Cartesian, Newton, Einstein, Tesla. We move
Mhm.
into these different realms where we learn more. And so people, I feel, have to be ready to go, okay, this information is foundational, but it's being also updated.
Mm-hmm. Yes, our reality, we see our reality as a very set thing, but it's not. It's always changing, it's always evolving, and the changes have been accelerating. And you don't need to be a part of the spiritual world to realize it. If you look at our technology and our even connectedness since the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is evolving so fast and changing so quickly. And then with cell phones and now with AI, it's really accelerating tremendously. And it's also true spiritually. We're changing, we're evolving, and our frequencies are changing. Our frequency is raising, especially now as a part of that shift. What we're doing is humanity as a civilization is going a full octave up.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of changes that are happening, and our perspective is changing with our
Yeah.
changing frequency. And so it's both our actual reality is changing and the way we perceive it, the way we're able to comprehend it and experience it is changing.
Yeah. And how what I've noticed is that, even as a therapist, what I learned years ago, and then when I went back and did clinicals, or what I'm observing now, has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Even from the idea of, a client or patient or mentoring, right? The idea of
Mm-hmm.
coaching or mentoring. There's all these, back in the day, it used to be, so focused on, I feel, oh, I got to say my feelings, I feel. Well, then at some point it was like,
Mm-hmm.
listen, work with your feelings and heal, process on
Mm-hmm.
your own. Everybody doesn't have to do something because you feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering what can happen, or do you see a shift in this? I just feel the spiritual community is kind of gets a bit, I guess all, even science does this too, and archaeologists and historians, maybe it's just part of the process, you tell me, but I find, and maybe it's, I have quite a bit of Aquarius, my son's in the 11th
Mm-hmm.
house, there's this unwillingness to bridge or to update and go, yeah, that was foundational, but now it makes sense. Because I, like you, I heard you saying, oh, I haven't even heard of this person. And some people have said,
Yes.
oh, this, you're like so-and-so, but they said this, you're wrong. It's by generation. And I'm like, well, I don't even study that person. I go, I know of them. Or some people, I'm like, I don't even know who that is you're talking about. Because there are so many people that do this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, she came out in the 40s and 50s. And I'm like, well, I didn't study that
Yeah.
person. I'm getting similar information, but it's updated, because the soul doesn't go by generations and age or race or religion. It goes by frequency, vibration, and resonance. That's how the universe works. So what are your thoughts on that, on the information, and maybe how do people discern, or what do you know? I guess my question is, have you noticed this, and perhaps what do you think about it? What do you suggest?
About having the difficulty to change and adapt.
Yes, well, also that there is information that is updated. And even when I did my book, Meditation for Everyday Living, the guides told me, because I was wrestling, coming from a
Mm-hmm.
meditation background and had been in India in an ashram, and I used to meditate at 1.5 hours in the morning, and then at night, and then an hour, and this and that. And I'm writing, and they guided me to do short attunement, alignment meditations. And
Mm-hmm.
they said, this is the true state of the consciousness and awareness. So all you need to do is shift. It doesn't have to take an hour to be there, to be in
Yeah,
that.
but you see, maybe it used to take an hour, and that's what I'm saying. That we are changing. Our consciousness is
Yes.
changing,
So
and yeah,
yes.
you see it
So
with
how do we
hypnosis.
open that up? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Things. Well, I had earlier more, obviously progressive or advanced information, because I've got information of where we were going, right? Because I wrote
Mm-hmm.
my first book,
Yes.
I don't know, in the late 2000s or something, early 2000s. So what do you suggest for people listening, like the
Mm-hmm.
discernment and how to process and understand? Maybe it's from a
Yeah.
critical point of view, a psychological point of view, that, like, yes, these could be good, or like you're saying, that maybe that was what was needed, but that things can update, they can get better, they can evolve. We can update the software. I guess that's the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, so that's goes back to what we were mentioning before about having to keep an open mind, because even
Mm,
things that were scientifically supported, and science is always changing for a reason. We're not supposed to think science is dogmatic. When I saw that
mhm.
even in my schooling in psychology. When I went to school, they said all kind of things that today are known as absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
they said that the only brain the cells that never change are brain cells, neurons,
Oh,
nerve cells, and
interesting.
they said yes, they don't change, so if you lose brain cells, that's it,
Oh.
you're doomed.
Oh my gosh.
And now we know that our brain is actually so plastic, and even people that have brain damage and lose their sight, sometimes the brain find different pathways, and you start using different parts of the brain that were not
Mm,
meant to see to begin restoring that sight, and people gain sight again even though the visual part of their brain is completely destroyed. So now we know the brain is so
mm,
plastic, and we're so adaptable, much more fluid than we used to think. And that's just one small example. So the idea is that science always changes not only our understanding of it, but also our actual reality. So, how do we apply it in our own lives? We have to keep one hand on the pulse. We have to stay
mm,
open minded. We have to stay open hearted. And we cannot see having been mistaken as
mm,
a failure or as a fault, because
mhm,
a part of our growth and a part of our evolution is to make mistakes and learn, is to change our ways and grow, and it is just a part of growth. So staying open is super important, and also developing that inner discernment. You have to
yeah.
go inward to
Yeah.
feel what resonates as truth, what resonates as not for me, yes for me. You really have to go inward and feel and be present, because like we said, it can change moment to moment. So maybe
Yeah.
something that a year ago felt resonant, a truth and accurate, Now you can go back to it and like, I don't know about that. That's fine. Now it goes to the gray box in terms of instead of yes or no. So we have to be able to change and adapt and grow. And we have to be able to trust our inner discernment, because no outside source is going to tell us better than us what we should do. And that goes back to what you were talking about before I came on, right? With your financial
Yes.
advisor
Oh.
that led you astray.
Ah.
And why is that? It's because you didn't follow your inner discernment. You instead chose to listen to an outside authority. And that's when things get messy.
Yeah, which sometimes can be good when you don't know as much. And I was trying, so that's the discernment. Like,
Yes.
I go to this expert to help me, and what I learned in that though is they may have knowledge, but what filtering is it coming in? If there's a lot of fear, that
Mm-hmm.
knowledge doesn't, and I think that's a biggie for all of us in this next phase of the Great Awakening, is that you can have a lot of knowledge or know-how or expertise, but if
Mm-hmm.
it's being channeled through an excessive fear filter,
Yes.
you're going to give skewed information. And that's what I you know didn't see, which I
Mm-hmm.
kind of felt. I went, well, I thought, okay, let me try this kind of
Mm-hmm.
way of learning something new. And then I just went back and went, wow, when it comes to that, mind you, on a bigger thing, I might, you might have to listen buying a house or something, but yeah, you bringing it back in, looking at how is that person filtering their information? What is that energetic vibe? What is that their vibrational frequency? What are they resonating out? Because they could have great information and a lot of expertise, a lot of years, a lot of know, and even be very successful. But the current information they give you, if it's coming from that filtering, it's going to be very distorted, right? So I
Mm-hmm. And
kind of
and you know what? This conversation makes me realize one of the questions that I used to get a lot is the difference between readings and channeling. And there is a difference.
oh
And I always
yes,
used to say that channeling is like one less filter, right? You're
yes,
cutting one bridge and making it more direct. But at least when I'm channeling, I'm semi conscious, so I'm aware somewhere there in the background. I'm not like asleep and
yeah,
completely out of the picture, which I think is actually essential for today's world because this is more an integrated way of channeling. However, I am still one step removed, unlike readings when I'm totally present and all the information comes through me. So
yeah,
when I'm channeling, it gives the guides an opportunity to sneak through more information
yeah,
that
absolutely,
Yafi's brain, Yafi's
yeah,
mind would be resistant to, or thinks otherwise, or has an opinion, or think that I know something. So with the channeling, because it's one less filter, they get the opportunity to sneak through more information and bypass that. But that's analogous to what we have to do in our day-to-day life. We cannot get too stuck and too attached to what we think we know and what we feel is the correct thing
so
to do
true.
or
I always
feel.
say, well, psychic is still coming from the mental realm, right? Sixth chakra. And the
Mhm.
channeling, you're above the eighth chakra. You're going into that more of the unified field of consciousness. You're right. You're less diluted energy or filtering. And in fact, sometimes when I'm in session, I can tell if I'm doing a psychic reading or is it Michelle, the therapist, coming in, or when I'm channeling. Yeah, you're
Yes.
right. You're kind of one removed and you
Hmm.
feel it. I don't know about you, but my crown chakra and the energy, I just tingles. It just opens and heats up, and it's just this. I can tell a difference energetically. How about you?
I do get really hot when I channel, even before when the
Yes,
energies are present. I get my body, my physical body gets really really hot, and that doesn't usually happen with readings.
me
So
too.
there's
Same.
definitely physiological energetic difference.
Yeah. And do you ever feel like sometimes when I'm channeling, my voice gets, not just the stream again? I like what you said because it's coming less from the ego human filtering. It's just coming through
Hmm.
the heat, the tingling, and then sometimes I have to move. I literally will be just walking around my healing office or my house, I just start walking, because there's like all this energy coming in. And yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
that
But
happened to me. I noticed with hypnosis, when I started practicing hypnosis, I noticed that I never just sit. I would walk around the room and talk and walk around the room and talk. And it's definitely an energetic thing of moving the energy and moving with the energy in a way,
yeah,
allowing the energy to inhabit our body, right? And become one with it as we're moving around.
yeah, I love that, the movement of the energy. Oh, I'm so loving this conversation with you, Yafi. Really, I am. I love it. That yeah, hopefully more to come. Let's connect in a bit with your book. I want to know a bit about how that transpired and what that's a bit about. I know if it's the Hathor or Hathors,
That's
or that
right.
it,
You can say either
yeah,
or,
you can, okay,
singular or plural. Yeah, either way,
okay.
it's accurate. So, yeah, so about 5 years ago, Hathor came into my life. And just like you, I had no idea who Hathor was. So when the name was presented to me, I was like, oh, yes, the Egyptian goddess. I had no idea what I was dealing with. And in fact, it sounded this masculine warrior like name to me, like Hathor, yeah. And then,
I don't know much about that. I've heard a bit. I might know a teeny bit, but
mhm,
I don't really know much about these beings
yeah.
either. So I'm all
Yes,
ears.
so Hathor, to me, she presented herself from the beginning as the divine feminine. And I think
Okay.
intentionally she didn't use the word goddess. Now I love the word. Back then, I would probably have an allergic reaction. um, so they used the word the divine feminine with me. And indeed, it was this soft, loving, wise energy that I loved from the beginning. And then the people I was with asking the questions as I was channeling, they knew that the name Hathor related to ancient Egypt, that she was an Egyptian goddess.
That's all I know.
And yes,
That's
so since then, I've gotten much more information about their nature, about their identity, and their reality. So, yes, the divine feminine is the first emanation of creation. That's why they're feminine. It's not masculine, feminine, the way we're used to understanding it. It's masculine is the structure, feminine is the flow. So the actual loving creation is feminine, is in essence. And that is their first memory, first understanding of their own beingness. Now, beyond that, or after that, if we think as humans, linear term, after that, they were physical beings in the star system Sirius.
there's so
And
much was about Sirius that's coming up right now.
yes,
Okay.
and a part of it is them, not only them, but yes. So and they were in Sirius, they were physical, and that's where they ascended, just like we are now going through this process of raising in vibration. So they have eventually raised beyond the physical and became non-physical energetic beings, and that's where they became a collective, still with somewhat of a serious identity, because that's when they were physical and ascended. And as a Syrian collective, they have been a part of the creation of humanity. So they have been involved with our planet before we were here. And that is why they are a part of our essence. They have been involved with humanity, with the creation of humanity, with the evolution of humanity, and they become involved with us in every critical time. And that is why, in the time of ancient Egypt, they actually walked the earth as physical beings. They didn't have to be born like we are, so it's not incarnation the way we understand it. They have the ability to densify their light body enough to manifest the physical body.
To connect in to
Yes.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is how they interacted with the ancient Egyptians. And now, and that's where it gets really exciting. So I've been channeling them for 5 years, and approximately 2 years ago, maybe it's more than 2 years now, 2 to 3 years ago, all of a sudden they announced that when I was channeling that they are on the planet in the physical once again. So they are here again in preparation for contact, for actual physical open contact.
Love that. Well, it have a lot to do with service and the mission, right? The mission here.
Absolutely.
Right.
And a lot of us are connected to
Yeah.
that mission, right? So a lot of us are asking, why am I here? It's so chaotic. It's so difficult. A lot of people are asking that. A lot of people are seeing the chaos around them and their hearts just break. But the bigger reality, if we could zoom out a bit, and this is something that they have the privilege of being able to do and share with us, is that we chose to be here on the
Yeah.
soul level. We are so excited to be
Yep.
here
So
at
true.
this time where all these changes are finally happening. And yes, everything that's broken, everything that's corrupt has to come up to the surface. Nothing can stay hidden anymore. Nothing can stay buried anymore. Nothing can stay in the dark. We are here to shed light on everything. So that means everything has to be apparent. So there are a lot of systems that we knew were broken or we didn't know much about, and now we're really seeing the extent of it. But it's not that things are worse, it's that they're coming to the surface so they can be addressed and restructured in the way we
Yeah.
truly want to restructure them. Whether we're talking about the financial system or political system or anything, the medical system, anything that we can imagine, energy, even the idea of having reliable, affordable, or free energy worldwide, which is coming, that's going to change everything. So we're at this time, this pinnacle of all these changes. And if we're able to kind of sturdy ourselves, and not get carried
Pulled.
away with
Yeah.
fear and sadness and whatever else, anger, whatever else we can experience, if we can not drown in those, but instead keep that perspective of these intense changes that are happening now that are so needed and so welcome. The
Yeah.
changes are welcome, not the
Well,
pain, but the changes are welcome. And the changes cannot happen without first everything coming up to the surface. And these are just some of the messages in the book and the messages that Hathor has been sharing with me and with others over these recent years.
so true. The changes. You know, I was doing a group the other day, a workshop I was facilitating, and I said, because a lot of people think, oh, everything is so malefic or the cabal. I'm not saying that's not definitely all. There is elements of that, but I said,
Mm-hmm.
just think about when you're running, let alone a family, but let's say a community, let's say a city, let's say a state, let's say a country. And I taught school years ago as a teacher. They do try to push everything in the medium way just to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so some of these things weren't done malefically. They're just to manage, billions of people and different areas of life and systems. And so as we shift in awareness and consciousness individually, those systems have to shift, that
Mm-hmm.
they have to change to accommodate, which is also sounds what you were channeling through the Hathors. I think that can help people kind of navigate to not get so caught up as you talk about the pain or the uncertainty
Mm-hmm.
or the chaos. Use that energy, the chaos, to create, to bridge, to build, to answer your soul call, to join with others. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yes. When I made my first book, Conversations with the Earth, the first chapter is fire consciousness. I channel fire consciousness. So unlike Conversations with Hathor, in Conversations with the Earth, it's all kind of sources that I channel. As many new channelers, I was, trying on different things. Anything that I was curious about, I channeled. Me and my group were curious about, I channeled. So the first chapter is fire consciousness. And one of the points of wisdom that fire consciousness has to offer is talking about that cycle of destruction and creation and how they are two sides of the same coin. But as humans, we have a tendency to see destruction as bad and creation is good.
Mm-hmm.
And we're missing out on the subtlety of how they are one of the same. They're two ends on the same spectrum, and they're dependent on one another. So you cannot have creation without destruction. It's a cycle that continuously feeds, one side feeds the other. So I think we're seeing a lot of destruction now as a part of the creative process. And we need to not go into that mental creation is bad. No, destruction is bad.
Mm-hmm.
But to realize how they're feeding each other and how we are creating so much right now, and as individual, you get to choose what you're creating. So you don't have to think about the government. You don't have to think
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
world wars. All you have to think about is yourself
Yeah.
and what choices
you're
you're making in your own life.
That's such a good point, because that's what the universe or life or all that is responds to individually. We radiate out, we transmit these signals as transmitters, transponders. We're radiating out and affecting change anyway. Yafir, what's interesting too, at the beginning of the live, I talked about the fire and purging and cleansing and
Oh, I
I
didn't get
did.
that.
And now you're talking about fire consciousness.
Oh,
So yeah, so I love it. I love it.
isn't
Yeah,
that what a synchronicity?
yeah, total synchronicity of, and again, that's getting stuck in either end of the polarity. Let me ask you, from what you kind of assess in your world and working with people, or what you've channeled, do you feel that this extremes of the polarity at some point will get less? In other words, not overly focusing on one
Oh,
side of the coin?
yes, absolutely. That's where we're headed. And
Okay,
it seems like it's the polarity is getting more extreme just because we're preparing for the shift. And what's really exciting is that until um only in the last month, until then, the guides were talking in future, the shift that is coming, that is here, but the eye of the needle was coming. It was a future. Now it's here for about a month now. They're
yes,
saying this
it's
is the
happening
eye of
now.
the needle. Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
I've been getting the same message. Like, you're already in
Oh,
it.
wonderful.
I know,
Exactly.
right? I got goosebumps.
Yes.
That it is happening. Yes. So
Yeah,
that's the
so we're seeing the worst of it, and yes, it feels intense, and it is intense. We're literally being squeezed through, just like the eye of the needle, just to come out the other side. And the other side does mean decreased polarity. So the ones of you that really are doing the work and walking the walk, you feel yourselves
yes.
being less polarized. You feel yourself catching yourself when you're judgmental and instead choosing compassion. And that's we are the way showers. Every one of us that is truly doing the work and is truly, applying it in their life and in their world. We are the ones that are creating those first templates for everybody else. And that's the direction where we're headed.
Love that, the decreased polarity. And yes, and I feel like, and maybe that you can share on this, or information that you've received. Us, it's almost like first responder. We're on that ground level,
Mm-hmm.
channeling or opening up to this energy and transmitting it, and living
Yes.
from that. And that is helping to, I call it bridging and building. It's helping, like you said, to decrease the polarity, even though on the outside it looks like there's a lot of what we call harmony through conflict. There's a lot of outer,
Mm-hmm.
but I think you said something so profound, is that a lot of us are feeling that it's like you're not in, when you're not in that energy. It almost reminds me when you go somewhere, or if you've ever gone to a friend's house, something, they were arguing, or somebody was, you could feel the energy, but you're not in that energy, and you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, you guys had disagreement, okay.
Yeah, and
It's
people,
like, okay.
yes, and people also have to remember that what we're seeing on the news, on the TV around us, that's not a reflection of reality.
Yeah.
That's not everything that's happening in the world. It's the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst being exaggerated and then being shown to us. Because if it bleeds, it leads, and for many other
Yes.
reasons.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we really have to
Control.
remember, yeah, we really have to remember that that's not all that happening. We're not being showed all the beautiful moments, all the good deeds, all the moments of connection, all the moments of creation. Those are today much, much stronger and more powerful. So, yes, there is chaos in the world, but it's not nearly as prominent as
Hmm.
we're being led to believe. And I
Hmm.
think that's a really important point.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Absolutely. And when you live your day to day life, you see that that's not the reality. There are beautiful,
Exactly,
kind people,
exactly.
magic happening, people getting inspired, going, well, this is happening. So I'm going to create that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I always say, out of that chaos comes creation and new order. Creation is
Yes,
creative. And it sounds like you're on that vibe, that trajectory, that you're, yeah,
absolutely.
you're into that creative, transmutive,
Absolutely.
transformative flow.
Yeah, so one of the things the guides always tell people, the Hathors always tell people is you want to know if there's chaos, you want to know if there's pain, you want to know if there's polarity. Well, don't look at the news. Look at your life. First, look inward,
Mm.
then look at your household, then look at your community, then look at your town. So it goes outward, but it
Wow.
starts within, and then it's one layer at a time. And then see, how is your household? Is everybody always fighting and against each other and disagreeing? If they are, this is your mirror, and that's accurate for where you're at right now. If not, this is a much better indicator of the degree of polarity, the degree of separation, rather than what you see on the news.
Hmm.
So, really start as close to home as possible. First,
I love that.
inwardly, and then your family. Nothing is closer than that.
Yeah.
Your family, I mean the people that you live with, right? I'm
Yeah.
not even talking about the distant sister that you haven't seen in 10 years.
Who's close to you? The 7, 10 people.
Yes, that are closest to you.
Thank you for that. That is a really, really good question and observation. Because also to me, it reminds me of projection perception. Because sometimes we're just
Hmm.
perceiving something that's happened in the world has nothing to do with us. We're that
Hmm.
observer, that witness, unless we insert ourselves. And that's so true. If you look at what's going on in your life, your world, yourself, I love that
Hmm.
first you said, and
Yeah,
then your immediate environment, that's telling you where you're at.
exactly,
That's
exactly.
something that we have. To me, that's something that's been going on forever. But because I've social media, and like you said, if it bleeds, it leads.
Hmm.
It's the
Hmm.
news and the cycle and all of that, and social media and all that. Is that a lot of what's happening has been going on forever, even at this extreme level. We just didn't weren't
Yes.
aware of it. That's the thing. And
That's
now,
right. That's right.
yeah,
People that are saying that humans now are more cruel than ever, no. Hundreds of years ago, thousands of years
yeah,
ago, we were much, much crueler, much less aware. Not indefinitely, because things do go in cycles.
hmm,
But generally speaking, we are more gentle, more loving, more aware. It doesn't mean that everybody is, but that's what free will is about. That's what exploring this realm of polarity is about. But we're definitely moving in the right direction, and much, 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 much faster than any one of us even realizes. The guides see it. They
hmm,
see a bigger perspective of where we're at and how fast we're changing. We are living moment by moment, and that's really all we can do. But
hmm,
that's why it's so important to stay trusting and to keep that faith, that trust, that flow going, because there's a lot of goodness around us all the time. And the world will show it to us, with
hmm.
synchronicities. Spend time in nature, spend time with your pets, do things that really nourish yourself so you can enjoy the goodness that is around us.
Yeah. It's interesting. The other day I was in my meditation. I thought, okay, I want to tap into abundance. And right as I left my back door, there was this guy doing some, work around the houses where I live. There were, and I had my trash. I was going to dump it. And he, oh, let me take that. I mean, it was like 3, 4, 5 kind things all in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Going to the store, the people there coming out, they get, oh, here's some water, try this water, we're selling,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all this. And I was like, wow, that's abundance. That's abundance.
Exactly,
To me,
exactly.
it goes back to what you were saying before about being open and looking and just
Mm-hmm.
looking. And I feel like what you're sharing today and what we're talking about is, I think we just have to look for it. Be
Yes,
open. Be
yeah,
open.
there's a saying, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It is
Mm.
so true.
Mhm.
Whatever you look for, you find. If you look to prove to yourself that humans are terrible creatures, you're going to find a lot of evidence that humans are terrible creatures. But if you look for the goodness, if you truly look for it, that's what you're going to see.
Now, Yafer, either you or the Hathors, what's a way people can begin to kind of shift into? I know you said being open. I think that's so important. That's such a great reminder. Being open,
Mm-hmm.
remembering things that are our mind, our brain is more plastic. It's not. They were even saying not necessarily wired. To use the term plasticity. There's the
Mm-hmm.
flexibility. But for people right now that are challenged in what they're seeing externally or in the small part of that mundane or mainstream world, to
Mm-hmm.
kind of shift more into this vision and way of living and being.
Yeah, so first of all, they have to to unplug from all the news and the chaos around. If you're spending hours each day and making that your world, it's going to be very, very difficult to keep your frequency high. So you
Mm.
really have to be discerning into what you spend your time and energy, what kind of space you're holding for yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to stick your head in the sand. We're talking about being aware, being informed, that's fine. But what world do you choose to be in terms of your
Mm.
actual day, your actual time, your actual energy? So becoming aware of that and being discerning in that way, I think, is crucial. And a part of it is making sure that you spend some time in nature, that you spend some time doing activities that you enjoy. Going back to creativity is important now more than ever. Connecting to music and to sound, and that's totally Hathor speaking.
Oh, okay.
That's Yafi speaking, but they say that a lot. That's important more than ever. And that whole idea, they talk a lot about the rise of the feminine in today's world, and what does it really mean? The rise of the feminine doesn't mean more women, although that's a part of it. The connecting to your own divine feminine means exactly those things I just mentioned. Connecting to your own creativity, so engaging in creative activity, connecting to nature, to animals, connecting to music and sound, connecting to movement, moving with your body, which we also
Yeah.
mentioned before. These are all specific connection to Hathor, to the divine feminine, and something that is very, very important in today's awakening, and will help you stay plugged in to the beautiful, enjoyable, and expansive aspect of the world we're living in today, rather than all the negativity and the chaos, which are broadcasted so loudly. So you have to intentionally, with awareness, choose where you spend your time, your energy, your attention, and that's going to affect how you're able to maintain your own energy.
Mm. I love that. What world do you choose to be in? I just put that in the chat. The other thing, yeah, what world do you choose to be in is, it is a choice. I'm hearing from you. It is a choice.
It is a choice, yes. And the more you're aware of what you're choosing, the more it increases your ability to choose.
Hmm.
So that also brings self-compassion, right? The
Yeah.
more you become aware, the more you notice your own patterns, your own issues, your own mistakes. And that is when we're called to really not be very critical about ourselves, towards ourselves, but to exercise that compassion muscle, to learn to be really, really patient with ourselves, compassionate, understanding, and loving with ourselves, and then choose our steps out of that place of awareness.
Mm. One of the things you touched on when you said that the Hathors had mentioned this, that feminine energy,
Mm-hmm.
which is also that unstructured time, being in the
Mm-hmm.
void, being more magnetic. And I would share with people that people need to get more comfortable with that, because we're going to have more space,
Mm-hmm.
more chronological time as we move more into the creator aspect of our
Yeah, so
being, right?
more being, less
Yes,
doing.
yes, yes. Absolutely. That's because whatever we need, if we're in that more that receptive feminine space, that magnetic energy, we will draw in the insight, the information, whatever we need will be able to be downloaded as
Mm-hmm.
the channels, that more and more people are becoming. So
Mm-hmm.
but I love what you said. What world do you choose to be in? Woo! I
Mm-hmm.
put that
Yes.
in the chat. I'm gonna post that somewhere with your name on. That is a what world do you choose? Because I think that's the question. I kind of early on years ago, when I was doing a lot of small group workshops in channeling, and I would get people, frankly, I'll be honest, saying things that already were people were talking about the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, and fear, just, oh, this is going to happen. And finally I'm like, okay, what do you want to do? You're going to go on the front line? No, I'm just saying, I go, your mission is here. You have a passion, a purpose. You want to create, you want to help, you want to heal. I go, because some of these things, it's beyond it. It's not part of our, I think you said this earlier, whether you want to call it our dharma it's not part of our realm on this
Mm-hmm.
level. But yet, as you said earlier, we are affecting that change as we are transmuting that energy and living differently, or
Yes,
moving into service.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's another thing that Hathors they say that usually people talk about the shift, they talk about the years and they talk about big changes. And even when we're mentioning the year 2012 was a big shift. So what Hathor is saying that you don't have to think about humanity or the world. Think about yourself. Think about your
Mhm.
life. And most of us can look back at 2012 and see really how it was a year of huge changes and shifts, and really just in our personal life. And the same with the awakening of music and sound. So people can look in their own life and see how they have rediscovered their love or connection to music, or found another way to connect to sound as frequency, or rediscover their love for dancing and the joy in movement. So these are not just general concepts. This you can actually look in your life and see how it's already happening and what has already happened. And of course, we are a part of, we can move the change. So let's say I'm mentioning music and you look in your life, I'm like, oh, I haven't really connected to music in a long
Mhm.
time. Well, see that as an invitation.
Mhm.
Find music that you really enjoy, whether it's meditation music or dance music, whatever floats your boat.
Mm.
Find the music that really does it for you and connect to that and enjoy that.
And so that is bringing us into, again, that feminine, the magnetic, the connection of spirit,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
which goes beyond the analyzing and logic, and that can bring in healing, just like chanting or singing, or that movement. It's embodying that higher frequency, or opening to that embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like by what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's why light language is awakening so powerfully in so many people nowadays. 10 years ago, barely anyone knew what light language was. There were very, very few practitioners practicing light language. And now it's gaining in popularity. More people are accepting it as something that they want to listen to or even do it themselves. And I love that. And I'll just say that Light language was too woo-woo for me until a few years ago. Yes, it's so funny. I was more accepting of English channeling, verbal channeling, where I can understand and get validation more quickly than light language. I'm like, oh, yes, weird, interesting sounds that I'm not really sure is anything. So it took me some time to kind of accept it and see and feel the value in it. But now I love it. I love doing it. I love teaching it. I love being in that space. Talk about putting the left critical brain aside and really just feeling and being. I feel like light language is kind of the height of that.
Yeah. So are you saying, like, with the light language, it's bringing you beyond that rational, logical, into that more expanded consciousness?
Yes, especially, so when I teach people how to channel, when you talk about channeling messages, words in English, it can be very, very difficult for people to let go of that critical mind. But what am I saying? What are the messages? Is it really coming from me? And when I teach light language, it's more about being able to inhabit that energy and express it with your own voice, but you don't know what you're saying. You don't have to think about what you're saying.
No, it's
You
vibrational, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's a little bit easier for people to practice and experience themselves. And also is to receive light language, right? So when I do light language, even people that usually say, oh, I can't feel energy, they tend to feel it with their body in a visceral way. So there is something about light language that bypasses our mental analysis and goes directly to the emotions, to the body, to the frequency.
Beautiful. And that's in so many ways what we're doing, in different ways. It's we've got to bypass that programming, that condition response pattern, the template, and get to that soul design or soul signature frequency. And of course, as you're saying, the light language, tone, sound, music, dancing, that assists that, or connecting in through that divine feminine aspect of ourselves and all that is. Oh, Yafi, this has been amazing. We're winding out now. Let us know anything else you want to share, and ways for people to connect with you that are listening now and that'll listen later in the podcast replays.
Yes, the best way to connect to me is through my website, yafichanneling.com. So Yafi, my first name, Yafi, channeling.com. Join my Sunday group. I channel every Sunday for my group. So you get to feel that energy of the light language. You get to ask Hathor questions. I also teach channeling in light language, as I mentioned. And of course, the books. I couldn't recommend more the books, both Conversations with the Earth and Conversations with Hathor. There's so much wisdom and love that the guides continue to offer. It's just a beautiful world to get into, and so much to receive, and nourish yourself with.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sue, in the chat. Great conversation today. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here as well, Sue, and all of you. Thanks for being here and a part of this great connecting and conversation. Appreciate all of you, those of you that tuned in, clicked in, connected in. Really appreciate all of you and what you're bringing as well. And Yafi, appreciate you being here and sharing with us and enlightening, bringing more light to us. Thanks for being a part of the conversation.
Thank you and everyone.
Big hug. Till next time. All right, Radiant Soul Lights. As always, you can connect here at every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And the replays are available usually by Friday on all the podcast platforms. Also, YouTube. Why don't you subscribe, share the conversation, and keep the conversation going, and help others join the conversation. Love to hear from you, because really this is about all of us. we're all an expert on some aspect of this. And in this time of the Great Gathering, it's so important that we come together and that we speak our knowledge, we speak what we're receiving, and we share our soul gifts more. And I so love doing that with you here, as well as the other places that you can connect with me. So as always, join the conversation, keep the conversation going, and continue to shine your light, share your insights, and of course, keep awake.
I'm getting woke and staying woke. Awakenings broadcasts every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. Archive shows available on iTunes. For continued awakened conversations and insights, join the Awakenings group on Facebook. And check out Michele's blog at soulplayground.com. And keep awake.